Welcome, everybody, to AI Elder Care, building the care we'd all want for ourselves. My name is Jose Garcia. I'm hosting this event on behalf of SenzMate, and we're going to start the event in about 1 or 2 minutes and just letting some people come in. Now, there's two audiences here. Everyone's welcome, but there's an audience on Zoom and there's an audience on LinkedIn Live. After the LinkedIn Live, the first hour ends, we're continuing on for another hour. We call this the after party. We're bringing on members from the audience to speak on camera. And if you want to be part of that, if you want to appear on camera and speak, you need to be on Zoom, because we can't grab people out of the audience on LinkedIn Live and put you on camera, but we can do that on Zoom. I'm going to be bringing on our first speaker in about 30 seconds. I'm almost killing time here because there's a bit of a time delay between Zoom webinars and LinkedIn Live. So I'm kind of covering my bases. This is not the first time we have focused on elders care. We've done that towards the end of last summer in September on SenzMate's Connecting the Future series, which is their Health AI, Health Technology, MedTech series. The first one of those events got 247 people live, and it was a fantastic event. A lot of new partnerships formed, one new business started, inspired by it. And we're going to be talking about this a lot more over for the rest of the year. We'll be going into that as to why we're focusing on that. I think I've killed enough time to start the webinar. I think we've got most of the people have shown up by now. So I'm going to bring on our opening speaker. Daniel, you ready?
I'm here. I'm very ready. Yes. Good to see you.
Welcome. Good to see you, Daniel.
Thank you, Jose. It's great to be here. I'm coming to you from London today. Yes, Jose. And
I'm in Spain, and my Spanish is terrible. And the reason it's great about having you as the opening speaker is you're really well connected to the pulse of AI, digital transformation, and elders care. And I think actually a lot of people, especially on the maybe in healthcare, maybe in the technology side, they're like, oh, I want to do something here, but they don't necessarily have that kind of knowledge that you do. So I wanted you to open the event with, and I know last year you spoke to about the why about this, and we were sharing clips of that, but I wonder if you could speak to where AI and elders care is right now, where it's going, and where we can do better.
It's a good wide remit, Jose. Thank you. What I'll do is I'll bring in comments which the other speakers can actually focus on and bring out. So I will go not so into so much detail, but there'll be lots for Angus, Aaron, and Ruben to bring out later in the discussion, because it's about discussions, about getting ideas out there. So yeah, I've been working in care, in older people's care, the past 20 years. And it's been really fascinating now with the advent of AI and what we can do. Finally, we've been collecting all this data and we can do something with it. But I want to sort of also build in some caveats, some cautions to people, because it's very easy when we talk about AI in any situation in older people's care. It's very easy to go straight to the flashy bits, to the technology, to the algorithms that you use, the dashboards, the big picture. And what I want to say is it's actually missing the point, because this is like any development. What it has to be based from the people who are going to benefit from it. It's got to be ethically based, because we need to gain people's trust to be using this AI in older people's care. And there's so much more of a focus, because we've learned over the past 20 years of digital transformation in social care, that it's actually got to be co-produced with people, because people know what they need. And so we have to, as technologists, we have to bring people in at the very, very beginning. So how far have we come at the moment? Where are we? Well, I can see every day AI being used in fall detection, deterioration factors, and in the back end, roster planning, how people are being used, capacity modeling even, Starting to be embedded in business situations. It's also looking at how we can get the best out of people. And there's some themes I'll refer to about how AI can help get the best out of people. I've got a few dictums for people to hold on to. And it's about proactive care. Ruben and I were talking earlier about how we now have the chance to be proactive in people's care, for people to be taking a bit of self-management maybe. So I'm running something in the UK called the AI in Social Care Alliance. And that is with care providers, tech providers, people who draw on care and support, and the care organisations. And what we're doing is we're working together to build up a pledge of how we're going to actually introduce technology, AI, into care, because we have to be focused on the fact that we are dealing with vulnerable people here, people who can, if things aren't right, if their rights aren't respected, actually suffer from this. We're people who've suffered trauma, and we have a duty of care. So there are risks. So it's actually a temptation to reduce the human element by working with AI in older people's care. And I want to caution you saying, yes, there is something in there, but we also have to reinforce the human element. Too much in technology in care, older people's care, we've actually been looking at different value points. And I want to promote that technology, AI in older people's care should be working on various value levels. It should be providing value for the person who is supporting, the person themselves, so they get better quality of life. It should be looking at the care workers because you're looking after them, so that their role is enhanced, is made easier. And it has to work for care organisations. It has to work for the financial resilience of care organisations. It's got to provide value, ROI value. And it's also got to work on our fourth level, which is for the health and care system. We're building not inside our own bubble. We're building for a wider picture, for a better health and care system for everybody, where people aren't part of a system. They can define the care they want. So that's the sort of caution, the background of what we're doing. There is one caution here. If we're using more AI-empowered tools, are we potentially de-skilling the workforce? It's a really interesting comment that we're now focusing in very many areas, and in health and social care, what we're seeing is that people are relying too much on it and not doing the basic skills. It's a drive to efficiency, which can be detrimental. So we have to walk the drive to efficiency, but also with a focus on better quality of care. So we now have care workers who are more literate with AI, and they're really working with the complexity of technology, but they have to be focused on the care for the person. So it's always best if you're developing AI empowered tools to work with the care workers to see what they want, to see how their job, how their work can be actually made better. And we suffer the same issues that generally in AI, with the bias that can enter into an AI system, an AI empowered system, to the exclusion, because we suffer the same things. It excludes certain people, certain parts of society. So we've got to focus, all your efforts have got to be focused, people at the center. So people have different needs, so we need to be flexible. And what we do have now is we have the potential to understand people's motivations. By looking at longitudinal data that we collect on people, we have the power now to actually assess the data that we have. So it's the health of the system we're looking at and the person inside it. So I have two dictums for people here. I say that there's two, when I go into care organizations, I go into different community organizations, using AI should do two things for me. It helps make the invisible visible. It brings to the fore all this data that we've been collecting. It helps us understand people, their motivations, and work towards proactive care with those people. So that's about making the invisible visible. And the second part of it is actually, and what I've said earlier in my talk, is enhancing the human. If we focus on care, and older people's care is a people-based business. So we have to focus on enhancing the human in there, giving them even more superpowers. So that's where I want to focus if we get this right, if we ensure that the ethics being used in care by care providers and tech providers, if we focus on the inclusiveness and human rights, then we can get this right. This is a real opportunity because we know there's a growing need in our communities and not so many people to support and can do the care work. If we get this right, we can build a healthier society where older people have that capacity to build themselves and to participate in their own care. If we get this wrong, if we ethically get this wrong and we ignore people and people's rights, then we are down the disastrous route. So there is great opportunity and there are also challenges. We've learned over the past, we need to be more inclusive in how we use very powerful technologies such as AI, which are being embedded in the tools. So Ruben, Aaron, Angus, I think that gives us a lot to build on through the talk. There's so many little points which you can build on. And if there's any questions you want to ask me to start with, fine. But I can hand over back to you, Jose, and say, that's the base on which I want this discussion to really go forward.
That's excellent. You know, I was actually having a chat with someone today, and actually it's similar to your framing. I said, there's two types, invisible and fleeting, or continuous and based on someone's journey. Just different words, but it's kind of like similar to your ontology. And Ruben, I'm going to bring Ruben on.
Yes.
Ruben, ready or not, I'm bringing you on.
Thanks, Daniel and Jose. I think you hit it on many fronts of this reality where we are facing that. I look at it from, your concerns are completely valid, but I look from the other angle of the population increase and getting access to these people with that kind of quality of service. You know, you mentioned about that, getting there. So what AI to me is, rather than just going and getting this solution in front of people and looking at it as another additional tool in the post care, I look at it as a preemptiveness. So what does it mean? I was giving you an example of, think about if there is an accident or if there is some occurrence of something happening and you are not known what's going on, what are the information. Here, what this one, the AI can provide you is, continuously monitor this information and then provide you the exact point of, for example, if it is an accident, a collision point, or where the fall happened, or some of these kind of specific one, and give that advanced information to the doctor for them to diagnose. By doing that, you can get to that. If you look at a heart attack patient, it takes, within 10 minutes or 20 minutes, you need to get to them into the emergency, and you need to get to them into, operating table, and every minute counts on those. But the problem is nowadays, you run these huge diagnostics to find out where the problem is, and just going around waiting for hours sometime to get all the tests done. Where this kind of help, where I see it is, going able to provide that. But I understand where you are coming from on the concern for privacy side, as well as some people the bad actors may use it for different things. So to me, the question maybe coming back to you on this one would be, where do you draw the line, on this part? Like, you want to help and improve the care part of it. On the other side is privacy, and making sure, insurance company don't use this one to reject your claims, or some of these kind of things. So how do you draw that line?
It's interesting. I was speaking to people from Norway earlier today, and saying actually people in Norway don't mind giving their data because they have trust in the system. They trust the system. So if people don't have trust in the system, in the UK, for example, people are very wary of their data going to the NHS. We had a leak here where people were giving their data to the Genome Bank, and that data was actually found on Alibaba, a few days later. And it was it erodes people's trust. So it's about, it's not just about what we're doing. It's about people's trust in the system. And when there's a question in the chat from John Paul Crofton Bewa about what we mean by being patient-centered. Now, I don't talk about patients, I talk about people. Patients are a subset of people to me. And what they're saying is, well, I'm going to bring it back to your point, Ruben, saying we need to be person-centered because we need to gain people's trust with these AI-empowered tools. And you're right, AI is the heart of everything now. So we're not going to, it's there, but we need people to trust us with their data and that we're going to be responsible with it. So does that feed into what you're saying, Ruben?
Exactly, because see, all these sessions we've been having with SenzMate and over last 30 or 40 of them, all will come back to that trust you can build with, like, even forget about the mid tech and all that. Even in corporate world, if you think about, if you're bringing in this AI tool, is it going to replace me? Is it going to shadow me and all of those part of it? What I have seen is, I am coming from Silicon Valley, right in the heart of it, and people continue to sometimes lose jobs and all that. But the critical thing which I am continuing to preach it and realize it is, the AI is a tool and a great assistant with a lot of knowledge base. It is like, for example, if you have astrological data, astrology, and if you believe in those kind of things, what do? They take these data over hundreds of years and condense into it and predict what is going to happen to your life and all that. But here, it is a real data. I mean, you have a human over last 30 years, 100 years information. You extract that information and provide these people what is predictable, because, for example, to give it to even further, I had a hard issue a few years ago. My father had, he passed away of that many years ago, many decades ago. And so you have this historical information, and with group of people and, set of people, it could be age related, ethnic related, or a different part of it. So all of these are a data driven decision the doctors normally make, but having that tool around it and able to assist the doctors who are overworked and done with all these medical part of it. So it become, as you mentioned, it's a human centric, person centric. So that is where the important part of it.
Oh, sorry, Daniel. I muted you because there was some background noise on your end.
Sorry, I hope is that okay? It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ruben, I was talking to a surgeon recently, and he said, the problem with AI is it's taking over all my mundane stuff and leaving me just with the very complicated stuff. And you know what? I love relaxing with the mundane stuff. That helps me relax. So if you take that away from me, I've got no relaxation point. Everything I'm doing is high intensity. I need something that's not high intensity all the time. It was really interesting to get that person balance in there. Really.
No, I tell them, go and play some pickleball. That's what they get some exercise too. It's rather than trying to do some mundane task and charge the insurance company for it, you just get some healthy thing out of it.
Brilliant. Yeah,
there's an interesting conversation there, and actually I want to introduce another point of view, and actually, and I got this from one of the interviews, is there's some people who will say, and this goes to your point, Daniel, the regulatory and the governance, to a certain extent, you may have to actually deploy the technology in a sandbox mode to find out the fit before you apply the regulatory, because it's hard to define it in advance. And that's one point of view. There's the technological sandbox people, and they typically tend to favor open source and embedded solutions. I know at least one person in the audience is going to disagree with me quite strongly. And I'll actually want to go back to the trust thing. And you saw my post today, Daniel. But I think it's my uncle. He's 94 years old, but I hear a lot of people like this. When it comes to trust, it's actually not about the technology. Who are the founding team? Who are the people who make the decisions? Do we trust them? If we trust the people in charge of the AI, then we trust the AI. If we
If
don't
I
trust
may,
the people,
if I
yeah,
may interject on that, now there is a case going on in my backyard in Oakland, California, between OpenAI, Elon Musk, and Sam Altman. I'm watching. It's in 15 minutes from my house that it's happening. It's so funny what you said about that. The responsible AI and OpenAI. Yeah.
and actually, that's my uncle's. What are these people like? That's what they come down to, and I think that's actually we're not. I'm not answering. We're not going to have an answer, but I think it's going to be a lot of it's going to come down to reputation of the company and the founding team and the perceived values, and not necessarily. And I know someone's going to disagree with me in the comments in the chat here, in the actual technology itself. But that's enough for me. Daniel, I'm going to bring you back, and Ruben, I'm going to bring you back in about Ruben, I'm going to bring you back in about 8-10 minutes. I'm going to bring on our second speaker. Don't go. Can you stay, Daniel, for the rest of the event? And see, remove spotlight. I'm in marketing, so of course I said trust in the founding team, because that puts the ball in my court. Dr. Wallace. Do I call you Dr. Wallace or do I call you Angus?
No, you call me Angus. Life has changed as I get older. All the terminology goes out the window. And I've learned to be wiser. I've learned that I'm moving in the direction of exactly what we are talking about. Becoming elderly, becoming frail, having difficulty communicating. So I have a few stories to tell you. The first one is about one of our best cycling coaches, a chap called David Brailsford. David Brailsford succeeded as a cycling coach by improving things in small steps, not giant leaps. And I fear a little bit that there are a lot of people in AI who are trying to take giant steps, who would actually benefit much more from focusing on small, incremental improvements. Now, I have a story about a lady who has now died. She was 82. She had motor neuron disease, and she had no family. We were next of kin. She lost her voice. She was extremely good on the computer, but she couldn't communicate with a lot of people on the computer. And the biggest problem I had was trying to get her water bill sorted out with Scottish Water, who would not allow me to communicate on her behalf, not because I wasn't next of kin, but because I didn't have legal power of attorney. And I had to get that in order to communicate with them. Now, she was a very independent lady and would not sign the form for power of attorney. So here we have somebody who has motor neuron disease, is living independently, can't talk because of her disease, and although she is competent on the computer, can't get anywhere. And one of the things we have to think about is how we help elderly people communicate, because it's not easy for them. And the NHS in the UK has produced an app. It's not a brilliant app. It's not that easy to use. And we, UKDHC, are carrying out some studies on how effective it is. So I would encourage those working in this field not to feel that they've got to make massive leaps, and not to go out and publicize that I have done something terrific, which they have not yet proven, but to focus on small increments and improving things in small ways. And the second thing I want to emphasize is that the family unit has changed dramatically in the UK. When you become elderly, your kids don't look after you. We still have the family units in some Indian families and some Asian families, but the Brits are not generally very good at looking after their family. So we need to focus on how to help both at home using wearables and in hospital. And there's a lot of work to be done. I see a lot of exciting things, but I am slightly depressed. When I have been attending hospital, I have had a problem with that finger, which a power saw tried to demolish. And I have been in the A&E department, in the fracture clinic, watching the doctors and the therapists having to sit at a keyboard and key in every single bit of information. Because AVT is not there at the moment. It needs to be. That's probably one of the things that's going to make the biggest change. But let us go for helping everybody a little. If you improve things a little, they'll start to trust you. And as we heard from Daniel, trust is vital. And at the moment, I have to say it's in short supply. We are getting there. We have the London Care Records, where patients are grateful for the fact that their records have come into one place. We've got the Nottinghamshire Care Records, which has done exactly the same. So we're getting there in small increments. But that's my bit, Jose. Let me leave you, and I'm very happy to discuss any questions.
I want to actually comment. It's not my fault, but the field of marketing has some blame here, because for the last 20 years, what the marketing department has basically been doing is focus on the early adopters at the expense of the 30% of users that are hardest to reach.
Yeah.
And it's not about one piece of software versus another. It's baked into everything, including the iPhone, Android. And so we've had this exclusion of that 30% for so long. And it's baked into interfaces. It's baked into the UI. It's baked into websites. It's baked into customer experience and customer service processes. And I'll give you an example. Teach my aunt how to use your phone. How do you access your contacts? Well, it depends. There's about 10 different ways. And it depends, how do you answer the phone? Oh, there's actually about 6 different ways to answer your phone. It depends on what's on the screen at the time. So we've got that legacy. I'm not too sure you can change that with a small step, Angus.
But I think one
Go
of the
ahead.
thing which you can hear me, yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
So it's very interesting conversation in this part of it. I mean, lately, actually, last few days, I'm hearing a lot more about voice agents. What that means is, so if you think about as a human, we communicate, as Angus, you mentioned, when you had to give a new tool and educate a 75 years old or an 80 years old person, there is the I had a helper. I used to tell them this, I want them to do this, and they figure it out and all that. And so I was talking to a person last night I met with, he's building some voice agents. I asked him what it is. He says it is going to be just removing all these questions and all that. You had to say, yeah, I need to make an appointment with my, a doctor. And it will go and figure out, and it will do all the, the flow in the workflow in the back end side. That is where the agentic AI workflow comes into play. But all of them are hidden from all these people, because what they are used to is, two areas are vision and voice, are the one which we are so familiar with. How do you make that UI, that kind of interface, to be more friendly? if you look at that, I mean, because my first company was voice over internet, the biggest challenge was the quality of service, because understanding, able to compress and all that. It has improved significantly over last 25 years. So the currently where, a lot of people are talking about these deep sciences, $1 billion and big steps and all those part of it. But how do you take that connection between these elderly, or some people who are not familiar with this kind of technology, and take it to their environment, how they used to do the work, and translate that into workflow without showing them all the AI magic in behind it. By doing that, what you are gaining is the trust. Keep going back to that word. Yeah, I mean, if you think about, if they trust and say, hey, my helper used to do that, but this tool now, without me understanding the interface, I just press a button, I just talk to it, and it figures out what app to open, where to call, where to do that, and then it comes back and give me saying, oh, I set up an appointment for you with this doctor this time. And by doing that kind of workflow, it is going to be the change. So I can, because it is happening in that world. I think last year, 2 years was, everybody was touting the LLM and technology behind it, but the user interface, user interaction, a part of it, I think, Angus, you rightfully pointed out, and you are living through, and all of us are going to live through soon or later with this, the population. And the other one is the population thing we are talking about, because the older population is going to keep increasing, because we live longer and we are going to be fragile, but still we are going to be alive. So we need to still deal with those kind of part of it. So that's how I see it is, how do you change the interface side of it? And I think we are focusing on that as a smaller company, rather than these big guys doing big things.
Ruben, I would like to support you in commenting on the use of phones. I think for the elderly and for those who are becoming a bit demented, and that is going to apply to a third of those who become elderly, they do need a simpler phone than an iPhone. And at the moment, there are a number of companies that are producing phones. We don't have as good an evaluation of these as we should have, but we have companies called Chatse, Doro, TT Phone, and Nokia, who are all focusing on making their phones more usable for the elderly. And I think that's a wonderful step forwards, and helping quite a lot. And I know it's not what you would describe as AI, but it's simplifying the use of AI technology a little bit, because you can phone more readily.
No, I think it is an interesting point there, because I think that environment, like, some of these 4 or 5 big guys are going to own the AI, and then all of us are going to build around it. But what you are saying is, I mean, if you look at Apple's success versus, the previous smartphones and all that, because of the usability, ease of use and all that, now you're taking to that, the larger population, how you can simplify that one. So I'm with you on that. I think we need to develop these tools. I mean, to me, even, I use this watch where I can speak to it and I can get most of the control out, and that has to be improved. But if it is improved, these, people they don't need hundreds of apps to go around and figure out themselves, but it figures out by itself. You just ask 2-sentence questions, and that is where I also think about the LLMs, large language model, get into play also.
We're going to bring on our next speaker in a minute, but before we take Angus off the stage, we're doing an event. We haven't mentioned the UKDHC, and I want to, because we are doing an event, and this is actually the first on that we've done, is because the UKDHC produces its own webinars. We're going to talk about the UKDHC in a second. And SenzMate, of course, produces webinars. We're joining forces on the 13th of May to produce an event together. And so I'm wondering, Angus, because a lot of people in this audience haven't heard of the UKDHC. So I wonder if you could introduce the concept.
Okay. UKDHC was set up in 2024, and we are focused on supporting and improving digital competency on the front line for people who work with patients and the elderly. And what we are trying to do is to fill the gap where in hospital, for instance, you have a new electronic patient record. All the staff are taught on this electronic patient record. But the frontline staff are actually seeing patients at the time and miss out on the tutorial. Or the frontline staff are changing so regularly that they don't actually get the tutorial. So we are providing help, support, and guidance with online tutorials. We run webinars weekly during term time. And we are genuinely, it's a very altruistic group of people. We are genuinely trying to help, both in the UK and Europe, patients in hospital and people at home who require care by improving communication between the frontline staff and the patients and giving the patient support as well. And one of the patient support projects is looking at the NHS app, evaluating it, feeding back, and making sure that the NHS are aware of the strengths and weaknesses of the NHS app as it stands at the moment. So that's what we're up to. Thanks, Jose. And the joint webinar is focused on the real leaders in AI and what they are doing and how they are pushing forwards what is happening in the world. And we've got some superb guests who are coming. UKDHC now has 750 members. So it's gone from nothing to 750 in 2 years. Anybody is welcome to join, and you don't need to pay any money. But if you want to actually get involved in our committees, we have a joining fee, but it's entirely up to you. And thanks, Jose, for giving me an opportunity to talk.
Oh, welcome to have you, Angus. I'm going to bring you back on in about 15 minutes. And now, our Erin. And I think
Hello, Jose.
hello. You're based in the UK, and you've been talking to a lot of care organizations and interviewing them and developing, I guess, doing solution discovery and development.
Yeah, we are doing both.
I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what you learned from the interviews that you've conducted so far, talking to care organizations about what they need, and also how are they reacting to AI?
Yeah. Based on last around 1 year, like we started developing the SenzCare AI, and we are talking to different people in the elderly care, social care homes, and we are discussing with people in different layers of the care industry. Like, so they can be carers who actually care for the elders day to day, and so care nurses, team leaders who manage the care, who plan the care, and so in the monitoring layer of it, and the home managers and the leaders of the home. So different while talking to different layers of people, so we identify their needs and like how their perception towards AI and usage of AI, So when we are when we have our initial discussions, so obviously with the top management, and but they initially requested it's for a full automation system. So they have care monitoring softwares, so which they take notes, and they have planning, and so each and everything's are recorded and everything. But whatever they initially wanted is full automation, or use AI somewhere on that, and reduce the workload, or something like that. But when we actually work with people and give our trial version, and then we identify, okay, so in with carers or whomever working with elders, so they have, I mean, sometimes they might not have time to enter something in a different interface, right? So it can be a single button press, but opening another app and entering it again will be again will increase their already high workload. So that's why for the solution we are providing the carers, especially to improve their note taking or assisting in their note taking, and they are in different levels of they have different experience. Some are in the early stage in this part. So we have systems to guide them taking notes properly, and taking different data points from the notes they are entering. But how we develop those apps is like a companion app. They use whatever they are currently using, the single interface and app, and our whatever we are developing are always they are like a companion to help them whenever they need, either to improve the note, or to remind them if they miss to take something, and or take note of some parts which they are missing, and everything, and remind those kind of parts. So like a companion. And when you go to the next layer, so when it's a care nurses, so their team leads, so but they are they need, or they were where their preferences to help them automate, or help them draft some of the reports plans, because they spend hours in planning different things, monitoring things, summarizing things, and there are different regulatory reports they have to produce. So when there's a report to be produced, so currently they are doing or they are using multiple apps or multiple different platforms. Sometimes they use local apps, and sometimes they are in a different health management software. So so specifically we have to integrate the workflow into a single system, and give them some points, or summary, so that they can easily easily generate those reports. It will reduce their workload, and it will help them not to forget anything, while reporting or while planning, right? So if there is a new report comes, that need to be included in multiple parts or multiple software or multiple sections in the care plan. So just to remind them not to miss anything. So that's the part they want. And into the third layer, in the leadership layer, so what they want is a 360 view of the home. So they won't identify where are the areas which needs improvement, and so what's going on, what's the summary, and so something on the preventive layer, so they want some insights on the classical ML sense, right? They want some predictive modeling and everything, so which is not needed in the other layers, but when there's a top management layer, so they need the dashboarding and the predictive and those kind of systems. So but we identify is all those layers. Mainly what they want is some workflow optimization. So whatever they are doing, they are still going to focus, but the AI will help to optimize their workflow. And also we had to do without affecting their current routine. So that is important, because in all the layers, especially in care industry, teaching them more train them to a new technology or new way of doing things, it's bit difficult. So the solution should be an integratable one to like a companion, but not look like an additional software to be deal with. Yeah, so that's what we are working.
And it drives with my experience, Aaron. So I visit a care home twice a week, and there's a little office that I have to pass to go to my uncle's room. And there's always somebody in that office. And there's a CCTV and there's a computer. And I usually chat with that person. There's something I've noticed about that person. They have to be there, but they don't want to be. So they're actually always getting away from the computer to talk to people in the hallway, but then they have to go back. So they can't go too far away from the computer. But they don't actually want to do that. They want to be out talking to people in the hallways or in the common areas, but they have to.
Yeah.
It's almost like a string that just pulls them back to the computer. And they don't like it. But
the portability of the solution is one of the way. Like they need to be there because they are monitoring something, like they will get call or everything. But if you bring that to a different interface, if you only filter something, they need to attend and give proper reminders and everything. So we can free them from the place.
Free them from the prison. And we've got 12 minutes. I'm going to bring everybody on screen. That spotlight. We're going to answer, and we're going to start the after party soon. We've got 7 minutes, 8 minutes left. We have a final word coming from a guest speaker.
Can I ask Aaron a question here?
Yes, you can.
It's Daniel speaking. Hiya. Aaron, it's interesting. So you're developing, it's a very competitive arena now. It's really interesting. And you bringing things together like that. Can you, in a full system that you're developing, can you incorporate software from other organizations as well? So that interoperability, and also link in, and Angus will be interested in this, can you link in with health records as well? How's the continuity coming through in what you're developing?
Yeah. So, which is always which is always in our focus. So, there are different competitors, especially in the healthcare monitoring sector, like different softwares, and so they use different APIs, and then there is medication, there's health record, of course. So always we provide an API for the two-way consumption. That means to get the data from different softwares and optimize them, or like use them in our intelligent layer, as well as our optimize or enhanced data can be consumed by the other software. So it's always two-way integratable. So
yeah, I think to add to that, the API based integration with many of these tools, in many sectors we are working on, SenzMate is working on, and it's becoming common also, because I was just told there was another company who's just building APIs, to able to cross talk to many different functions. So that is going to be so critical, Daniel. So if somebody has already built some component of it, and if they had to be done to bring everything together, we don't want to recreate that. We are working with a financial company in US, and they had built some solution before, and they're working with banking. And so they have so many of them existing. So how do you go and, this is like some of these institutions like banking and healthcare, privacy and all those concerns, as well as historical information. So it is very critical what you are saying, not to go and reinvent the whole thing, but you have a platform and then have connectivity.
Is this like a bit like the Unified Digital Health Platforms for care, Aaron? Like, with ServiceNow, you have a layer that sits above all the EHRs.
Yeah.
It's like that, but for elders care.
Yeah, we can call like a unified platform as well as like workflow orchestration, right? So different softwares are there and people do using for different purposes in different numbers, but we give a holistic view of the care, and that's the best way to interpret it. Yeah.
I'm going to, that's very interesting. And what it does, Daniel, I think the best way is turns EHRs into systems of record instead of systems of workflow, and you have a unified intelligence layer that sits above them. I produced a webinar on the subject last year. I'm going to share the replay with you. That's for a different industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very different picture depending on whether or not in Europe or in the United States. But Paolo, are you there? We're going to start the after party.
Hello.
Hello, Paolo, our surprise speaker. And actually, the very first webinar I produced for SenzMate, you were on the panel. I don't know if anybody noticed, actually. I think the very first webinar I produced for SenzMate, almost everybody was Italian. You remember that? It was just all Italians on the panel. That wasn't intentional. But, Paolo, I wonder if you can give us a quick final word before we go and before we start going to the after party. By the way, if you're on LinkedIn Live, everybody, please come onto Zoom and maybe we can keep the LinkedIn Live going as well. We don't have to end it. But that's a suggestion to the LinkedIn Live producers. I don't have control of the LinkedIn Live studio. And so we're not ending the event, don't leave, people. But Paolo, I want you to give us some poetic perspective based on what's been said so far.
I'm not sure I'm up to such a task, but what
you can do it, Paolo.
I think it's a big issue because we are talking about technology and human behavior, and this is so big. AI is so big on human behavior outside healthcare, in our social domain, that healthcare is one of the most sensitive areas of this social domain. I think the good news is that we can have less human work and more human presence, because if we don't need to stay on the keyboard and we can stay with the people, with the patient, always remembering that patients are us. So we are always with people at all stages. And this must be a sort of acknowledged issue, and patients are not something that live on their own. They are people with a certain situation and condition, and that can be us at any moment. And then there is a more, let's say, a more practical aspect, and that's on trust that goes through security and safety. And we'll never end that story, probably, because we'll always have good actors and bad actors. And probably we will need to think about a new paradigm of definition of good and bad actors and consequences, because our data will never be completely under a safe condition. We will never have our data into a safeguard, a safe, a safe box, because we need data to flow. And so the issue is not keeping data confined, but the issue is to avoid people misusing this data. And there are a number of actions that can be carried out there, but they are political actions. And of course, it goes through punishment in the end. And to define that type of action is the most difficult thing that we can think of. And so I would close with that. Dostoevsky, in Italian, is delitto e castigo. we must keep an eye on making our data flow and avoiding bad actors exploiting it.
Thank you, Paolo.